to let's do this question 3, and we see where we go from there. So question 3, under the required, let's see what they are asking us there. Here it says, by how much would the profit increase or decrease if the new plan, okay, was implemented? Clearly indicate the increase or decrease. So again, we're doing a comparison, all right, of the new plan versus what? The current status quo. In other words, the current state of affairs, okay, or the current situation that we find ourselves in. So it says Legal Limited currently turns inventory at a rate of 5 times per annum, okay, 5 times per annum. So in other words, it sells all its inventory 5 times per year, okay, pays its creditors after 50 days, okay, and has accounts receivable collection period of 65 days. Okay. There are 365 days in a year. The company's current total annual investment in working capital is 8,212,500 at a cost of 14% per annum. Okay. Right. So this is our total annual investment in working capital. Right. Then it goes on to say, the company is considering implementation of a plan. Okay, now we're moving on to something different. Implementation of a plan to reduce its cash conversion cycle. The administrative costs of implementing this is about 75,000. So it's going to cost us more to implement this, and involves a 15-day reduction in inventory days. Okay. Acceleration of the collection of accounts receivables by 20 days. Okay. So we're going to reduce our accounts receivable collection period by 20 days, and then delaying the payment of creditors balance by 15 days. Okay. Right. By 15 days. Right. So, in a nutshell, what are we comparing here? Remember, they said, how much would the profit increase or decrease if the new plan was implemented? Clearly indicate the increase or decrease. What is this plan about? These are the questions you have to ask yourself in the test. Otherwise, you're calculating, then I just see a line through, because you realize, even I don't know what I'm doing. What is the plan? Why are we reducing the CCC? What is the CCC all about? It speaks to, you're 100% right. So you're saving what? Because I'm trying to summarize. What are we doing? Yes, if I reduce the CCC, yes, you should be maybe not necessarily making more profit. Let me read this from your textbook. the one that you guys are so diligently reading. Let me read this. It says on page 105, under the cash conversion cycle, okay? Second sentence, the CCC is representative of a company's investment in working capital, measured in days, okay? So by reducing the CCC, what are we reducing? The number of days we have invested in working capital. Can you see that? So we want to reduce our investment in working capital. That's the objective of this plan. Does that make sense? So we are now seeing, we're trying to check a reduction in our working capital investment. Right? Let me write it in full. What impact is it going to have? Are we going to have a an increase in profits, or are we going to have a decrease in profits? So if you do reduce your working capital investment, yes, you should have a increase in profits, but we need to verify that, right? So, because remember, there's different elements of your working capital. But anyway, now we know what we're doing. Does that make sense? Now that we know what we're doing, now we can do it. So let's see. In other words, we're basically now going to compare one, our current CCC versus our proposed. They just changed the words, 100%. But it's the same stuff, isn't it? Okay, right. So let's see what we then now need to do. So again, and forgive me here, we used terms that are not necessarily in alignment with your textbook, but here, look, we've got the inventory turns, which will give us the inventory days. In other words, how many days on average it takes us to turn over our inventory, okay? 73 days. Then receivable days, okay? In other words, how long our debtors takes them to pay us, and then how many days it takes us to pay our creditors. We know we need all these values to calculate your CCC. Because what's the formula for CCC? Let's look in our textbooks and see. If you look on 105, what do you see? You got two formulas. You've got the operating cycle minus the accounts payable days. There we go. And then the second formula, which we're going to be using here, is your inventory days plus your accounts receivable days minus your accounts payable days. Okay, so that's what they're doing here. You can see the 73 is your inventory days. Your 65 is your accounts ARD. And then obviously your 50 is your APD. Oops. D. Okay, so it's giving us 88 days on the current plan. That's how long it takes us to convert cash. Convert our current liabilities and current assets into cash. That's how long it takes us, 88 days on the current plan. Then we go to the new. We are saying that our inventory days is going to decrease by 15 days. So the 73 minus 15, you get 58 days. Receivables is going to decrease by 20 days. Where did it say this in the... Here. Collection of accounts receivables by 20 days. Acceleration. Oh, they used some fancy English. Fancy English. So 65 minus your 20 you're obviously getting 45. Okay. And then they said we are going to increase the time to pay our creditors by a fifth. Okay. So 1/5 times 50, you then get your 10 days. Okay. And so we have then 60 days. So then we do the same calculation, your ID minus, sorry, plus your ARD minus your APD. And now look, can you see our days have come down from 88 to 43. Okay, so now we can begin to work. And what's our starting point? Firstly, we need to know how much do we spend daily invested in working capital. They gave us the annual. They told us that per annum, we spend or we invest 8,212,500 at 14% per annum. Okay, so daily we are spending how much? 93,000 and some change. Okay, the new average, okay, we're saying is 43 days where we're going to need to invest in our working capital. Okay, and so that brings us to 4 million that we're going to spend if we manage to reduce our cash conversion cycle period, isn't it? Cool. So already you can see we're saving in terms of our investment. We've got 8 million and some change minus 4 million and some change. And we have about 4,200,000 that we are then spending or investing, let me say investing in our working capital. But now, remember, they asked us what? Is there an increase or decrease in what? Profit. So we're not asking you, is there an increase or decrease in your investment? Okay, because remember, investment in working capital affects what? The balance sheet. Doesn't affect your profit or your loss. Okay, so we then have to say, okay, this investment, we know that there's interest of 14% on that. That is going to affect our income and expense because we know that interest expense goes under your financial costs, isn't it? All right, so we then calculate to say, okay, this 4 million or almost 200,000 times the 14% is going to tell us what our interest cost will be. Then we also know that there is a administrative, is it an administrative saving or an administrative cost? I thought it was a 75% cost. Oh, I see what they did here. This almost 200 is the saving. Can you see it's the difference between our current plan and our proposed plan? So this is the saving that we will realize in terms of our investment. Can you see that? So if we apply the interest rate to that, then it's going to be the financing saving that we would then realize. Can you see that? And then they're deducting the cost of that admin. So it's coming together. So now you know exactly how much we would save. And obviously, that means we will see this in our profits because it's a saving, isn't it? We're saving on interest. We're paying less in terms of the interest expense, isn't it? Are we together? Are we happy? Can we do this tomorrow? If you had to write tomorrow, we are ready. We'll be ready. Ah, guys, the energy levels not encouraging. Okay, but anyway, let's finish up. So the rest is just theory. Okay, so here they say list any 3 implications that Legend Limited should take into account before delaying payments to creditors as intended above. Okay, and this is not rocket science. Just try and remember key points and then be able to unpack them. So guys, when they ask you a theory question, I would advise that Write on the answer, the question paper. That's the key points. And then unpack on your workbook. Okay. So that when you now start writing, you can see that it's structured. So here the first thing they mentioned is loss of discounts. Sorry. Loss of discounts. If you are not paying early, all right, it means you're obviously losing out on any early settlement discount. Okay. Then supply relationship and credit rating risk. Okay, if you're taking forever to pay, you may be straining the relationship, delaying past what you have agreed. You may be straining the relationship, which is obviously not good for business in the long term. Then supply chain disruption. Delays can trigger supplier holds, delivery delays, or loss of priority, which may affect production or sales. You are delaying to pay, we're going to delay in terms of delivering stock to you. So you can catch a wake up and do business as agreed. Okay. So you need to watch out for those type of things if you're going to be delaying payments, particularly beyond the term agreed. Okay. Right. So then here, 3.3, last question. You have advised Legend Limited to follow a conservative funding strategy in order to fund its total working capital requirements. Explain what is meant by this strategy and the benefits of such an approach. What is a conservative funding strategy? Somebody tell me. What is a conservative funding strategy? We spoke about this.
Of course, when a company funds its total working capital funding requirements with long-term debt.
Is it correct? Anybody? Somebody? It's 100% correct. Okay. An aggressive. What's an aggressive funding strategy?
Because when a company funds its permanent funding requirement with long-term debt only, and it's seasonal funding requirement with short-term debt.
Can you see the difference? You are going to get seasonal funding requirement. It's the nature of doing business. Okay. You're not going to know all the working capital needs upfront. It makes sense. So these things are an estimate, but we're saying to ourselves, listen, it might not be easy to raise funds in the environment that we're in, right? And while it may be more expensive, you know what? At least we know we have the money. So as and when we need it, stay. Okay. So an aggressive, you just get the minimum necessary. Okay. And then you obviously raise funds. We're calling it aggressive because you raise funds as and when they're needed. Okay. And then conservative, we're saying we are going to fund all our working capital requirements, as she highlighted, by means of just getting long-term debt, long-term financing. Okay. So here now they mentioned the advantages and disadvantages. So I'd advise guys, look in your textbook, use your textbooks answer, which is on what page is that? If they ask you to define, yes. So that is on page 109. I think don't use this one. Yeah, it's not 109. Okay. Better answer. Okay, right. Now the benefits, lower refinancing and liquidity risk. Okay, because of what I was highlighting. Okay, less rollover and fewer cash flow squeezes. Okay, then stability of financing costs. We know what the interest we're paying. Less exposure to short-term interest rate hikes. Hey. So if the Reserve Bank minister wakes up on the wrong side of the bed, or the governor of the Reserve Bank wakes up on the wrong side of the bed and says, no, 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 too much inflation, let's hike interest rates. Isn't that what you guys were doing in economics? Guys are doing big time things, huh? Stronger solvency cushion, higher liquidity, better ability to withstand drawdowns. Okay. So, and there you can see trade-off, usually slightly higher cost than the aggressive or short-term financing approach. Yes, 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 yes. Any questions, thoughts, concerns? I don't want to tell you. I haven't revised the paper. Oh, I told you. Okay. Which one do you want to do? You want to do 20? Which one do you want to do? You want to do 20? Go and look at 2023. We'll see. I'll do 2 just to see, depending on how much time we have. But maybe we'll only be able to revise one. We'll see. But I'll definitely do 2023. We'll start. Is that fine, man? Okay.